Hello, everyone, and welcome to Global Industry Spotlight. My name is Daniel Crane. I'm the Director of Programming at the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship, and you are listening to Global Industry Spotlight, a conversational series focused on providing resources and insight for the creative entrepreneur. The Global Industry Spotlight today is on Melissa Thornley, a leadership consultant, content producer, and writer specializing in emotional intelligence and media arts. She is also the director of marketing for Pravda Records, one of Chicago's longest running indie record labels, celebrating its 38th year working with artists across a wide variety of genres, including indie rock, alternative, pop, soul, experimental, alt country, and punk. Melissa is also a 2112 member and a good friend, and we're excited to have her on here today. Let's bring her into the conversation.
Hey,
Hi,
Daniel.
Melissa.
Nice to see you.
Well,
Thanks for having me.
yeah, it's great to have you on here. One, you always bring a ton of energy to 2112. I'm so happy that we've gotten to know each other through being in the same community. So I wanted to start out saying, it's been awesome kind of getting to know you and your work and learning about what you do and all the different things you are involved in, including emotional intelligence, also, directing the marketing for Pravda. But I'd love to just get a little backstory about your work and kind of what you're doing right now and your involvement with Pravda.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that's great. So my background actually is in film and TV. I worked in post production for over 20 years and also worked in representing music houses. Specifically, it used to be called Hum Music, it's now called Shindig Music. So I worked with music houses, post production, production companies, and I did that for over 20 years. Early on, my grandpa was a big band singer, right?
Mm.
So he sang at the Aragon back in the
Oh,
40s
wow.
when the Aragon was a ballroom. For those of us in Chicago who know the Aragon ballroom, it really was a ballroom. And so I've always loved music since I was a kid. So regardless of what my professional focus was, I was always into music. So as I shifted out of film and TV, I got more focused on how do I help people develop themselves and how do I help them develop their businesses and specifically around emotional intelligence. But my passion for the creative side of things has never gone anywhere. And so I work with Pravda Records in a marketing sense, which is basically, I would call myself more of a community creator and a community director, right? I work with the artists, I work with record stores, venues, creating excitement, creating communication opportunities for Pravda, whether it's press or social media, that type of thing. So it's anything that's creative and community focused. Right. So that's my role with Pravda. And then I also keep in the film industry by working with Free Spirit Media. It's a nonprofit organization on the west side in North Lawndale. And we focus on partnering with youth to raise youth voices in a creative sense, mainly around film and broadcast arts.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that's amazing. And it's a lot, right? There's like, you have this rich history in music. One, that your grandfather was a big band singer at Aragon, and you've been working with Pravda, and you have a passion for helping creatives become successful, right? And I also share that passion of how do we support the industry, how do we build something that's sustainable, how do we help people build small businesses, and also support our creative sides as well. Um, if you can talk a little bit about, the history of Pravda, kind of, what this 38 years means, but just, the fact that an independent Chicago label has been able to last that long itself is very impressive. What are some of the things that and we talked about this offline, and attribute to that, like the community around these sort of institutions is what supports them?
Yeah. Well, it takes a lot of things, right? There's the partnership with artists. Ken
Right.
Goodman founded this record label in 1984 in his dorm room with one of his bandmates, Rick Mosher. Right. So it stemmed from, hey, we're artists. We want to do this. We want to turn it into a business. And what's funny is even prior to that in high school, Ken had a band, and had his own band. Starfire was one of the bands. And then he also played with an Elvis impersonator band. So he, since being a teenager, has only worked in the music industry and had a business card as a teenager in the music industry. He's always been passionate about it, and it's always been what he wanted to do, right? So he thinks like an artist, and he also thinks like a business person. So for me, that is kind of the sweet spot. And even in the work that I do outside of Pravda, I see it. You want to have a balance of that creative outlook as well as business acumen. Right. You have to be able to understand, even if you don't understand a spreadsheet and you don't understand how to cut costs or how to grow your revenue base or diversify what money can come in for artists, you have to know somebody and partner with somebody who does. Right. And so that's one of the things that can be really critical, because some people might have a really great business mind. Other people might be really creative, but you have to kind of have a blend of both. So I think one of the reasons, one of the reasons why Pravda is so successful is that Kenny can use his artist mind, because he's an artist and a performer and a musician, but he looks at it from a business angle and a business perspective. And because he's also an artist, he can actually communicate with other artists in a way that makes sense, right? It's not like you're walking into, a meeting in a boardroom with a suit, right? Although Kenny's a very snazzy dresser, right? You do have to be able to communicate about it, right? And build trust. And he's always very straightforward and very artist focused. So it's also one of the record labels that hasn't focused on one particular niche.
Right. The genres are great. It's like it's wide.
It's wide. So it's not like, when you think about, there are certain Chicago labels that I think of that are super iconic, like Wax Trax and Bloodshot. Right. And when you hear those names, you're like, okay, you can almost hear what they might sound like, right? Because they created a specific sound. And that's not necessarily the case with Pravda, because there's soul, there's punk, there's indie rock. Mm-hmm. So there's a wide variety, and it's basically what is quality, what music sounds like quality music, what has potential, what artists feel like good artists to collaborate. So
and in supporting, so I love the parallels of, okay, so I want to start a record label, but to be able to be successful in that, like you're saying, you need to have some sort of business acumen and figure out kind of how that works, which a lot of artists do not have. They may be great performers. They have a great sound, but the actual, the actions that you need to take to create a business around that yourself, as also being the artist and the business person, that's rare. Not a lot of people can really do that well. But it's also very important for artists to be able to do that in the sense that they can kind of control their own destiny, and being able to build something around that. And then you are also supporting creatives, with consulting and teaching people how to grow, their own careers and their own businesses. Can you talk a little bit about those parallels? One with kind of what your consulting is and how that kind of relates to the community and the business acumen and building creative businesses as like a general theme.
Yeah. So typically when I'm working with clients, I am not the person that you come to if you want somebody to analyze your spreadsheets, right? That's not me. But in terms of looking at strategy, in terms of looking at habits that you want to build across your business, team dynamics, right? Not everybody has all of the strengths. Now, I'm a solopreneur. I have to tell you, I have a board of directors, my own personal board of directors that I lean on that have different strengths, right? I've got my accountant, I've got my tax accountant, I've got people that I talk to about social media. Even though I'm into it and I like it, I can't do everything. Nobody can do anything. And I think there's a myth, especially in the music world, when I look at all the different workshops that are out there, that you have to know how to do everything. You want to have a working knowledge of how things are done. That doesn't mean that you should expect yourself to do it. So one of the things, for example, with Pravda is we do a lot of licensing, right? So there are some artists that aren't necessarily on the Pravda label, but we do their publishing, we might do their licensing, we might put them out for sync, right? And so a lot of people think, oh, well, I'm just going to learn about sync and I'm going to do it. Well, that's not how it works, because you can learn about it and you can understand it. But unless you have all of the contacts and the networks and the distribution channels and all of that, you're never going to get your music in front of the people where you want to get your music, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, yeah, I can save money and not partner with somebody to do that. Yeah. But then you don't make the money that you could have made if you got your music in front of the right people. So it's looking at ways to, I'm specifically talking about music and more about Pravda right now, but it's looking for people who you can trust, who have the relationships and that are steadfast and have not only relationships but experience. And then in terms of how I work with different organizations, oftentimes I'm working with the leaders in terms of training and emotional intelligence, because in creative industries, it's all about people, right? We're coming up with ideas.
You're good.
If you've got a company, you're coming up with, you've got talent that you want to manage. You've got clients and maybe artists that you're working with. So it all comes down to relationships, how you're working with your own mental capacity, how you make decisions, right? We're all about our decisions and our promises and our agreements, right? So I talk a lot about that with organizations. And then I also do some strategic work. And I work with everybody from PR firms and ad agencies to theater companies and artist management companies outside of Pravda. So to me, it all feels similar, right? It's all about, okay, I have an idea, I have a concept, I have something that I want to make real. How do we make this real?
Yeah, man, so many great points you brought up. I also see the educational piece of, hey, learn how to do sync licensing, learn how to do all of these things. And the reality is what you're talking about is that you actually need these record labels and publishing companies who have years in the business, who have the context to actually grow your sync licensing opportunities. It's great to have working knowledge to know when you go into these meetings kind of what the language is. But if you want to expand in a way that's going to help your career, you absolutely need help. And that's something that it is, I think, just important in general, any kind of creative business that you're building, right? There's a point, as you said, I'm a solopreneur. Right. I have my people. I have I like social media, but I can't dedicate my time to that, and it's really good for entrepreneurs out there. I mean, Melissa's bringing up really good points, right? We need to build community, but we also need to go to the experts and talk to the people that can expand our careers or expand our businesses, like you're saying, even with Pravda. So let's now shift this weekend. Tell me about this weekend. What's happening this weekend?
Well, I dressed up for this meeting, as you can tell.
I love them.
These are literally hot off the presses. So this is the Pravda 38 shirt, right? Now, the shirt was designed based on the beer can. Kenny worked with Sketchbook Brewing in Skokie. Kenny's originally from Skokie. Sketchbook Brewery is in Skokie and Evanston, and they are very community-oriented, very arts-oriented, and they have a lot of live music performances. So they decided, hey, let's put out a beer. Let's create a festival. And let's do it in honor of the 38 years. Now, it's funny because people are like, 38, who celebrates your 38th? Well, we had this thing, the global pandemic. So that kind of put a damper on a 35. And 40 just feels like too many years away. And Pravda 38 also had a fun ring to it. So there's, they partnered and put out a really delicious, like indie rock lager, we call it, light, and I tasted it. I'm not a huge beer drinker, right? I like beer. I can't stand IPAs. No offense to the IPA people. This is a lager. It has bite and it's super light and it's delicious and I love it. Anyhow, so this looks like the can, but then wait. So our t-shirt folks at Visage came up with this. Can you see it? Am I?
Yep.
All right. Yep. Okay. So those are the bands on the back, and so it's 2 nights. It's at Sketchbook Brewing in Skokie on Main Street. Friday night, tomorrow night, 4 bands. Saturday night, 4 bands, food trucks, outdoors, family friendly. It's going to be a big celebration of the label. We've got new artists and basically the Slugs and the Service. They played together, and Boomhank as well on Friday night. They haven't played since the 25th anniversary, right? So it's 13
Wow.
years. So all playing this weekend. It's great. And it's a mix of Friday night, you've got Steve Dawson from Dolly Varden, you've got Josh Caterer from Smoking Popes,
Right.
you've got Hush Drops, you've got Boomhank, and then Saturday it's the Handcuffs, the Diplomats of Solid Sound, which, speaking of sync licensing, they recently had one of their hits, Soul Connection, was on the end title credits for Grace and Frankie, which is huge. Like that's like
massive.
When you get an end credit placement, that's huge. So anyhow, Diplomats, they're a neo soul kind of band, and they're playing tomorrow night, as well as the Service and the Slugs. I mean, that's all Saturday night. So Friday night and Saturday night. But the info is out there. If you go to the website, there's been some great coverage. The Mark Garino wrote a beautiful, beautiful piece for the Chicago Reader, as well as there's a great piece out by the Sun Times, which comes out tomorrow. The Trib covered it. It's getting a lot of local love. Yeah.
Yeah, it's and it should, right? We should be honoring these independent labels that support music, that support the industry, that have survived. I loved how you talked about offline that you have the label has been able to get a very loyal following in the Midwest, right? In the market, and they definitely get following, as you said, outside of the Midwest as well. But there's like some core record stores that have supported Pravda. You said what were the cities you mentioned?
Yeah,
Iowa City,
all like Chicago, obviously.
right?
Chicago and the outlining areas like Rattleback at Andersonville, Lori's Planet of Sound, Lincoln Square, Rediscover in Elgin, Dave's Records on time. Like all the stores in Chicago are fantastic, right? But then we've got bands out of Minneapolis, and we've got we work with Electric Fetus and other stores in Minneapolis, Milwaukee, Iowa City, Indy, Houston. Like there are some core cities that really are big Pravda fans. And I had an interchange with one of my advertising clients that I used to work with, and he's out in Goodby. He's a creative director out at Goodby in California now. And he said, hey, back in college in the 90s, I was in a band, and our band used to open for the Service, and then later on, John's like, later on, I did ads for Pravda. I love Pravda. He's out in California, so he's probably not going to be at the fest, but it was just fun to hear that type of legacy. And even in Boomhank, that's playing Friday, they've been one of the first Pravda artists. And Stump Mahoney, who's in Boomhank, he is head of music over at FCB. I think I got his title right. Maybe I didn't get his title right. But anyhow, and I met him as a producer ages ago. So there are a lot of people that are tied to the label that go way back. And then what's really fun is all these new folks are discovering it, because just like with what's happening with Stranger Things and
I know it's wild, right?
Bush, people are actually, they want to listen to this. They want to listen to 80s and 90s music, right?
Yeah. It's such that's quite a phenomenon. And wonderful, because the music's good, right? It's like I love it when music can just stand the test of time because it's unique, it's interesting, it's not trendy. It just is able to last. When you hear it again, you're like, this is good. And it's wonderful to hear about just how they built a community, and how you have these people that loved Pravda 20 years ago, and it has kind of the love stays, but then they get jobs with FCB, and then they are able to even be a part of the kind of community or the ecosystem that surrounds this record label. Well, all I have to say is let's put the website in there below one more time. Check out pravdamusic.com. Go there. The tickets are on Eventbrite. Check it out. It's this weekend. It's going to be really exciting. I'm going to be there Saturday for sure. I'm looking forward to checking out. I've never been to Sketchbook. I grew up in Evanston, and I keep seeing a bunch of these music events happening at Sketchbook. So it seems like it's a great place.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so great. And I got a text today from Carrie over at Sketchbook showing them putting up the stage. So the
Oh,
stage
wow.
is in the back in the loading dock. So
Great.
it's not even, so typically they have artists play inside the brewery or out in front. This is going to be in the back on the loading dock. There will be, everything is outdoors. The food trucks will be there. We also have a Pravda pop-up shop with all sorts of merch from cassettes, like lots of, like, people
That's
are really
awesome.
into cassettes now, right? So
Yeah.
cassettes,
Right.
CDs, vinyl,
Right.
all sorts of fun t-shirts. So we're really excited.
Yeah. It sounds like a great, it's going to be a
Ooh,
great, oh, yes,
the
go
la
ahead.
I
Ed,
totally forgot to say the
do it.
poster. Do you know the Bird Machine, Jay Ryan? He
Yes.
does a ton of rock art. He's amazing screen printing artist, and he does a ton of rock art. And he did our commemorative poster, and those posters are killer. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll have to, are
So
they going to be in the merch table?
they're going to be at the merch table, and yeah, and Bird Machine is close to Sketchbook as well. So and Village Inn around the corner
Right.
is doing all the pizza for all the artists. So it's just been, and Visage did these t-shirts. Give a Shirt has done some of the other t-shirts. And their money goes to Streetwise. So it's like this. It's just a massive ecosystem of
That's so good.
artists, fans, community. It's just, I love it.
And James Van Osdale is going to be hosting, right?
Oh my gosh. How could I forget? The
Yeah.
amazing and talented James Van Osdale is hosting. And that's another thing. If you check out Car Con Carne, he has been interviewing all of the artists. So he actually, in his recent newsletter, he put together, like, it's just every artist that is playing this weekend, he has done a podcast interview with them. So
Oh,
you
that's
can find out
fantastic.
more about the bands if you'd like to do. For all of us music nerds, it's always fun to hear more about the bands, right? From the artists
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I love James's podcast, and yeah, it's great hearing about smaller indie labels and getting more details about the bands, and being a part of these music communities that support each other and support great music. Well, Melissa, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today and tell us about all the exciting things happening this weekend. Again, it's great to have you, in the ecosystem as a 2112 member. I'm happy to always see you. I appreciate the energy you bring to the room. But thanks again, and I will see you this weekend.
Sounds good. And thanks for having me on, and thanks for being part of 2112 as well. Like 3 cheers for 2112. I love
Three
this
cheers.
out here.
Absolutely. All right. Take care.
Thanks. You too, Daniel. Bye.
Well, there you have it. What an incredible story, right? Pravda Records, 38 years, independent record label in Chicago that has been able to survive, and not survive, but thrive. They have a wonderful community around them. They have great music. They've been able to figure out a business model that works for them, that represents a broad amount of genres. And then this weekend in Skokie at Sketchbook, they're celebrating 38 years. It's going to be a fantastic event. Go and check it out. pravdamusic.com. All the events, all the details are there, that you can buy tickets on Eventbrite. But again, I'm excited to go check it out, check out the music, see the community. And I'm really grateful that Melissa was able to kind of tell us about what was going on today. Again, my name is Daniel Crane. I am the Director of Programming at the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship, and this was another episode of Global Industry Spotlight, a conversational series focused on providing resources and insight for the creative entrepreneur. We are usually stream live out of the Comcast Business Startup Studio located at 2112, Chicago's first music, film, and tech incubator. Thank you to Comcast Business and Shure for providing the tools necessary to make our programming possible. Visit cceglobal.org to register for free workshops offered by our partners. Find us on Instagram and Facebook, connect with us. We're grateful to be a part of, like Melissa said, businesses that support creative entrepreneurs, solopreneurs. That's a hard word to say. And all the people who are building really cool things. So again, wishing everyone a great weekend. Take care, and we will talk with you soon.